everyone, it's Mary, and welcome back to my channel where we talk about all things related to the storytelling industry. If you don't already know me, I write nonfiction under my real name, Mary Ellen Quigley, and I write romance under my pen name, M.E. Laverne. And in today's video, I'm going to give you a recap of how things went at the Haunted America conference. Now, I apologize, this is my second time recording, and I look less pretty in today's video because the first one, I used a brand new microphone. Let's just say that the microphone worked a little too well, as in it picked up the sound of the fan, the sound of the papers rustling. I'm like, it's an excellent microphone. It was a little too excellent. So I'm doing this kind of last minute because I want to make sure I get this video up on Monday as promised. So anyway, excuse my appearance, whatever. Okay. So how did the Haunted America conference go? Well, it's a whole thing. So the event itself, I'm happy that we attended, but let's just say that it was an eventful weekend. And a lot of the dissatisfaction did not come from the event itself, but from the just experience of traveling. So number one, it was sweltering in Indiana. It is not normal for Indiana to have temperatures near 100 degrees, and Illinois was equally as hot. It was like a Midwest heat wave. So not only was it like sweltering, but it's not fun traveling in the swelter. It was like the walk outside, the humidity hits you, and you immediately sweat kind of heat. The heat index on, I think it was either Friday or Saturday, was over 100, which again, you don't see too often in Indiana and Illinois. So we were sweating buckets, first of all, so that was not fun. Second of all, our hotel was miserable. Now, to be fair, we stayed at a certain particular brand of hotel because I had an employee discount. It is I'm not going to name the hotel or name the brand, but I will say it is a well-known, popular brand. One of two major brands in the United States, and I expected it to be a good hotel. We had stayed there the year prior. I get $40 employee rate rooms, so I'm like, you know what? Let's just book another employee rate room. We had a great experience last year. I do not know what changed in a year, but the hotel was terrible. I don't know how the beds are both soft but lumpy at the same time. Overwhelming smell of bleach and all of the sheets. Pillows were flat like, if you like pancakes, the pillows were flat like pancakes. The rooms didn't get cleaned by housekeeping when we were there. There was a lot. There was a lot wrong with the hotel. So to put this in perspective, we didn't sleep. We catnapped. We maybe got a couple hours overnight. That's all we managed to accomplish because you'd lay down and like immediately be uncomfortable because it was lumpy but soft and flat. I don't even know. And then halfway through the night, your back would start hurting. So it was really bad. And the hotel kind of ruined it for us because anytime you're overly tired, it's like you can't enjoy anything else because you're tired. So long story short, we arrived on Friday. This is our, maybe over here, go over here. This is our lovely table setup that we had set up for our vendors table. We ended up sitting next to some really awesome people that also wrote a book, and we got to sit back there with them. We met a lot of people. The actual event itself was great. The networking was wonderful. There were a lot of really cool things. We got to meet Troy Taylor. Hello, Mr. Troy Taylor. And these were our table neighbors. I will share their book with you here later. But we had an amazing experience. We really did with meeting people. As far as like the actual sale of books, I'm going to be 100% honest with you guys. We didn't sell nothing. We sold 6 copies. 6 copies of our book. Now, I was concerned when we signed up to be vendors because we originally had planned to sell podcast merch or something else other than just the book. But life was crazy. And we also had this realization that like our podcast is not really that popular. So I don't know very many people that are going to want to buy specifically podcast merch with our podcast, like Hoosier Myths and Legends t-shirt. Like, I don't know very many people. because we're still a very small podcast. So my sister and I were like, do we really want to put all this money into purchasing? Because you have to purchase it up front, obviously, merchandise to sell that no one will buy. So we were like, well, let's just focus on networking, handing out information about the podcast, and selling our book. But I think we were secretly hoping, well, not so secretly, let's just be real, hoping to sell enough copies of the book to at least break even on the vendor space or on like the hotel, like to make it where we broke even on the trip in general. If it was just the vendor space in the hotel room, I think we would have been thrilled, but we sold 6 copies. And I was concerned about that because our book is very region specific. So I was kind of like, I don't know if anybody outside of that region of Indiana is really going to be interested. I mean, there are certain, like, everybody knows big cities, right? So if it was a book about like Indianapolis or Gary or, you know, someplace where Bloomington, because people go to IU, like if it was someplace that was really popular where people are familiar with that area of Indiana, I feel like it would have sold better. But ours is Dearborn County, which is a very small rural county in Indiana. And because it's so region specific, I think that unless you have ties to Indiana, you're not going to buy the book. And that's exactly what it boiled down to. The people who purchased the book were the people that had ties to Indiana. So the question that a lot of people have is, do you want to do this vending thing again? I don't know. I don't feel like it was necessarily, as far as like monetarily goes, it was profitable, but I loved the networking. And one of the things, because my sister and I were both like so overdone on Sunday when we left about the hotel experience, and we're like, we're tired. We were actually like tired and snapping at each other. I'm pretty sure we got home Sunday on like copious amounts of caffeine and a hope and a prayer, because we were just so tired that was like, I hate you, I don't want to talk to you, like that. We were that level of tired. Okay, we had the stupid sisterly fights on the way home because we were just tired. True story. Anyway, and I think we were just so overdone on Sunday. We were like, it was a waste of our time and we shouldn't have done it. But then after a week has gone by and I've really had time to think about it, I'm like, I don't necessarily think it was a waste because we were going to go anyway. We were planning on attending the conference anyway. So like we would have been there anyway. You know what I mean? Like we're not really out money per se, except for the vendor space and the materials we bought for the vendor table. Like we're not really out money per se because we would have attended anyway. So the couple questions I get are like, are you going to go back next year? Probably, because we like the actual conference itself. But do you want to go back as vendors? And my answer to that is, I don't know. I think my sister and I are going to take some time to think about it, to kind of weigh what went well, what didn't go well, all that, and kind of decide. Because realistically, if we were to go back with just that same book, it makes no sense to be vendors. We have nothing to offer that anybody wants to purchase, and we don't offer anything to the vendor space. So I would rather leave that space open for someone who has something to offer. You know what I mean? Like we don't want to take space from somebody who has something more versatile to offer. But at the same time, the networking was amazing. I mean, we have so many business cards. We've gotten a lot of emails from people. We have a lot of opportunities that are coming up, all because people stopped by the table, and even though they didn't purchase the book, they took our information down. We gave out a lot of business cards, a lot of flyers about the podcast. So I feel like the networking opportunities have been amazing. And we even got a couple of events that have came up from this opportunity. So I don't feel like it was a wasted opportunity. I just don't feel like it ended with we had our expectations too high, I think. Perhaps. And I also think that if we consider being vendors ever again in the future, I don't know that we will do it next year, but like in the future, if we decide to be vendors, I think we need to offer something other than our book. We will have a book that's less region specific, that's coming out next year. That's just about our experiences of growing up in a haunted house. But I also think, not necessarily podcast merch, but is there a way we can twist slogans? Like one of our slogans on our podcast is Stay Spooky. Can we do Stay Spooky merch and not necessarily Hoosier Myths and Legends? You know what I mean? Like, is there a way to offer more to people that maybe they would actually be interested in. I don't know. It's something we need to consider. I mean, some of the people that were also there selling books had like a ridiculous, I mean, the Ohio dude had like 10 books. I mean, he was extreme. And Troy Taylor, who runs this conference, the dude has, I don't even know the final count on him, but let's just say the man has like a redonkulous number of books that he's written because he's so prolific. So like, you know, I feel like we need to offer more than just a book about a small county in Indiana. So anyway, that was the experience of Haunted America. Conference was great. I mean, Troy does a great job every year of getting really good speakers at the conference. So it's really interesting topics, a variety of topics from just regular like myths, legends, and ghost stories to ghost hunting to everything in between. And so it's a really good conference. But as far as the vendor experience goes, you know, it was okay. Couple of really cool things that we were shown. The first one is I do want to share the book from our table neighbors. So my sister bought the book. My sister and I have this thing where we'll go to the conferences like that, and I'll buy a couple books and she'll buy a couple books, and we'll play swapsies. So the book that they wrote is called Unlock the Unknown. I don't know how well you can see that. It's called Unlock the Unknown, Keys to the Paranormal by Heather Berger and Kristen Menth. I will leave a link to their book in the description below so that you can check it out. But this is a book about, they actually do ghost hunting. So this is a book about the places that they did paranormal investigations and just their personal experiences at some of these locations. So I wanted to make sure I recommended their book. I did buy 2 Troy Taylor books. I don't have them with me right now, but I will tell you I bought One Night in Washington, which is about Abraham Lincoln. A lot of people don't realize that Abraham Lincoln was very into like spiritualism, paranormal, consulting with like mediums and things like that. So this is Troy's take on the spiritualism, I guess you would call it, of Abraham Lincoln. And the other one is Without a Trace, which is a book about disappearances that were never solved or like mysteries. For example, one of the things it talks about is the lost colony of Roanoke and how everybody in the colony disappeared and some theories on what happened. And I bought that because my sister bought the second book. So his newest book is Without a Trace 2. And I never read the first one. So I was like, well, let me read the first one. My sister bought the second one. And again, we'll play swapsies when we're done reading. A couple of podcasts I think you guys should check out that we did learn about. One, if you don't already know about them, you're missing out. It's called Southern Gothic. I have been a huge fan of Southern Gothic for years. I had the pleasure of meeting Brandon, I'm going to butcher it, Schneckschneider. I'm terrible at names. But anyways, I had the pleasure of meeting him. My sister did as well. And we've been a huge fan of Southern Gothic for years. So it was really nice to actually meet him in person and be able to say hello. We also got to meet one of the guys, Ken, from the Amok podcast, which I'm also familiar with the Amok podcast. This is Amok, and it's Arkansas, Missouri, Oklahoma, and Kansas. And the hosts of the show just do paranormal ghost stories, myths, legends from those 4 states. So it's a really fun one to check out as well. If you're from Indiana, we did get to meet the people that run the Rotary Jail Museum in Crawfordsville. And my sister and I are actually getting ready, we hope, to interview the authors of the Haunted Crawfordsville, Indiana book. But this is people that know them. They all work together down in Crawfordsville, and they do paranormal investigations and haunted tours of the Rotary Jail Museum. So this is a really cool thing if you're near Indianapolis. It's not too far from Indianapolis, but just a fun little thing to do if you're near Crawfordsville. And this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. I wanted to share it with you guys because I've not heard of this before, and I don't know if any other states are doing this. If you are aware of a state that's doing this, let me know. But did you know that Kentucky has a paranormal passport? Neither did I. So it's called Kentucky After Dark. And this is so fun. So this is literally like a passport that they've made. And it has all of these haunted locations across the state of Kentucky. And it, it has a table of contents that kind of breaks down where in the state they are. And for each location, it lists a little bit about the location. There's a QR code you can scan that takes you to the website of the location, so you can research hours and prices and any of the information you need to be able to visit the place. And then when you do visit, you get a stamp. And again, there's all these different locations, and you just go to each one, you get your stamp. And then at the end, after you visited all the locations, there's a form that you fill out. and they will give you a prize for visiting all of the locations. I think this is one of the coolest things I've ever seen. I live in Indiana, so I'm not far from Kentucky. My sister and I have this goal that we want to do the passport. So I was like, we need to just do weekend trips and figure out how to map this out. Because, I mean, it's all over the state. So we need to map this out somehow and be like, hey, this weekend, let's hit these locations and get our passport stamped. But what a neat idea to drive tourism to the state. This is something that I would have never thought of. And I'm like, I really wish Indiana would do something like this because we have so many cool locations. I don't even know how you'd get something like this started. But the coolest thing about this is it's from Discover Kentucky. It's just from their tourism board. How fun is that? I'm like, I wish I could be like, hey, Indiana, can we do this? Because this is really fun. So anyway, and then there's so many people I could never possibly make it through. I mean, I have a whole stack of business cards and flyers and pamphlets from all the amazing people that we met at the conference. But I did want to do a shout out for Deep Forest Tattoo. This was not a vendor. This was not a speaker. This was just a young lady that we met at our table. She came by for information on the podcast, and throughout the weekend, we just kept kind of running into each other and chatting. She's one of the nicest people I think I've ever met. And I'm a person who I'm terrified of getting a tattoo, mostly because I'm scared of the needles, let's be fair, but also because a lot of tattoo shops kind of have that manly energy. You walk in, you're like, are you going to kill me? Are you going to, I don't know, you're going to give me a tattoo. I don't know what's going to happen right now. And this person was so calming and sweet that I actually am thinking of making a road trip down to St. Louis to her shop just to get my first tattoo. I'm being honest with you guys. Me and my sister both talked about it. We're thinking of taking a road trip to go get tattoos. But this is the person, Laura Elizabeth. You can follow her. I believe she's on Instagram. I'm getting ready to follow her, but she's in St. Louis and she just recently opened her tattoo shop. So if you are near St. Louis or in driving distance of St. Louis, check out Deep Forest Tattoo. One of the nicest, kindest people I've ever met, and I would trust her with a tattoo any day. So I will also tag her below if there's a website or something so that you guys can check out that tattoo shop. But there's a million other people. I would be here for an hour going through all of the wonderful people that we met, all of the really cool places you can visit, experiences you can, there was just so many cool people at the conference. I think that's the best part. That's what I loved this last year when we went in 23. And that's what I loved this year was meeting the people. I don't necessarily know that I enjoy being a vendor all that much. I'm just going to be honest. There's nothing wrong with the vendors. Don't get me wrong. Like, there's nothing wrong with being a vendor at the conference. I just don't think we have the right material to be profitable as vendors. I'm just being real. But I do really enjoy that conference, and I'm looking forward to going next year as an attendee, unless we can figure out other things to sell. So that was our experience at the Haunted America conference. It was really fun. It was also really not fun because we were so tired. And to be honest with you guys, anybody who said hi to me on Saturday, I apologize. I was literally falling asleep sitting up. My sister had to hit me a couple times, and I just had to keep getting up and walking. I'm like, girl, I gotta walk. Because I would be sitting there, I would be like, waving, hi, how are you? Have a good day. And then I'd be like, because I was so tired. I think Friday night before Saturday, I think I got maybe 2 hours of sleep. I was 100% running on caffeine that day and nothing else. So I have never been more happy to get home in my entire life. All right. That's my recap of the Haunted America conference. So if you like this video, be sure to give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you are not already subscribed, and I hope you have a great rest of your week. I will see you in the next one. Bye.